How's it going, Rogues Gallery? Today, welcome! We have yet another Shadowverse Evolve deck tech deep dive video, this time for the Alterchaotica meta. This one is... Okay, wait, I say this every single time, but hear me out. The decks for this competitive season are really fun. All 6 new ones that I'm going to be showcasing in today's video, well, new and returning archetypes, are super fun. I have a blast playing every single one of them, and we also have 3 returning decks from Verdant Steel, or the Verdant Steel meta. So we have a total of 9 decks to go over today, 6 new and returning, and then we have the 3 just kind of like, they're technically returning too, but they're largely unchanged. While the new returning decks, they got a lot of really cool spice. We have Lashana coming back, we have Thief Sword, which has kind of always been a thing, but it got some new official support and a bunch of other stuff. So check out the timestamps and deck lists in the description down below. Let's get started. All right, let's kick it off with Abyss. It just might be my my favorite craft in the game, and this is a brand new Abyss archetype that we're just going to be calling 2-drop Abyss. And as always, we'll showcase the sleeves that I like to use for the decks. These ones are actually funny, but they do make a lot of sense. So these are kind of like my Abyss sleeves for here. So this is basically 2-drop Abyss. And as the name implies, well, we care about 2-drops. Off the back of a powerful news faction-shifted Rose Queen. Now we have the Crimson Rose Queen, no longer a Forest Craft card. Now she has joined the dark side in Abyss, as well as the new Alter Plane Arbiter card. We have these shiny Thorn Bursts because, hey, Rose Queen likes making some Thorn Bursts. So let's set all this stuff aside and let's get talking about the deck. So for this video, I typically like to just chat about every single card, and I kind of want to do a little bit of a broader overview, but I'll probably end up talking about every single card anyway. Some of the most important ones, like I mentioned, are Crimson Rose Queen and the Alter Plane Arbiter, and we have a whole cadre of 2-drops and then a couple not 2-drops. And the not 2-drops are fairly important. Like we're running the Tart Man here because, well, we care about these cards. So let's talk about these 2 first. So what is Crimson Rose Queen? Well, she's a really big part of this deck. She's a 6-drop 4/4. She evos for 2, and then on Fanfare you put a Thorn Burst into your EX area. And so this is a Thorn Burst, in case you don't know. It's a spell, deals 3 damage to an enemy leader or follower, and then you get a draw card, which is pretty good. That's pretty good. I would recommend getting at least your 3 Thorn Bursts, just in case. But what makes Crimson Rose Queen potent is her evolved form. So when she evolves, she becomes a 6/6, so she gets a +2/+2, which is pretty nice. And then also, you reveal your hand. You recover play points equal to the number of 2-cost cards revealed this way. And then whenever you play a card that originally cost 2, choose one of the following. You can either deal 2 damage to each enemy follower on the field and heal your leader for 2, or you can deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. So the idea here is that you get your Rose Queen, you evo your Rose Queen, so you can do this on maybe turn 8 with 8 play points. Maybe you can do this on turn 7 after you play Rose Queen and then evo her. But either way, you want a big hand full of 2-cost cards, so you can recover a whole bunch of play points, and then you play all of them. This is not a once per turn, so you can just go like play, kill your opponent's board, heal a bunch, deal a bunch of damage to your opponent's leader. And there's a lot of other synergy in the deck. So this is kind of our top end. So even though the deck has a pretty low curve with a lot of the 2-drops, we still want to get to our end game here. Now here we have another big piece of the end game. This is the Alter Plane Arbiter. This dude is a 5-drop 5/5, and then he evos for 2. And then on Fanfare, you declare any number. We're choosing 2 here. You bury the top 5 cards of your deck, and then you deal X damage to each enemy foe on the field, where X equals the number of cards buried this way that cost the declared number. So we want to basically bury a bunch of 2-drop cards and then blast our opponent's board for hopefully 5. But this it gets a little bit better too. So running 3 in the main. Some decks will only be running 2 in the Evo deck, and then 3 Ruleni. I think 3 Ruleni is the right call, but I don't... You'll see, I don't have enough Rulenis for 2 decks. I don't have 6 Rulenis, I just have 5. So I think the correct number is actually running the 3 Rulenis and 2 Alterplane Arbiters. But that's probably what I'll have in the deck list, by the way. It'll show what I would consider the correct numbers. This is just what I'm currently running because, like I said, hey, I have a lot of decks here. Anyway, when it evos, 6/6 on evolve, select 3 cards with different names in your cemetery. If they each cost the same number of play points, 2, then you add them to your hand. So this is basically a draw 3. So essentially what this is, for 7 play points, you have a 6/6 that maybe kills your opponent's entire board and then draws you 3 cards. That's what you call in the TCG industry pretty good value. I do want to talk about the non 2-drops. Every other card in the deck is a 2-drop except for these couple other cards. So we have Ruleni. Ruleni is just an Abyss staple. If you don't have your Rulenis already, just get your Rulenis. He's in every deck. Ruleni is just super good. If you have Necrocharge 10, you get to blow up an enemy follower and you play him. That costs 3 play points or less. And then while he's on the field, he taxes all your opponent's spells by 1. And then when you evolve Ruleni, Ruleni is in particular very important to this deck. When you evolve Ruleni, each opponent discards a card at random as a 4/4, and he still has that taxing effect. Now we're going to keep an eye on Ruleni. Well, we'll just show it now. Well, let's just show it now. We have a new synergy card with Ruleni in particular, and that is this one here. So the Sonata of Silence, which is a 2-drop card, and it just says select a Ruleni in your cemetery and you summon it. If you have Necrocharge 10, each opponent discards a random card. So that's a pretty good rate. If you have Necrocharge 10, then you summon your Ruleni from your bin. Each opponent will discard a random card, and then Ruleni's Fanfare will trigger, and you'll get to destroy an enemy follower that costs 3 play points or less, and then you can potentially evo him afterwards. Like I said, that's probably why you want to be running your 3 evo Rulenis. I'm only running the 2, like I mentioned, but Ruleni, very important. And then the other card here is Tartman. So Tartman is a 4-drop 4/4, simple effect. Fanfare, search your deck for any card, put in your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is really good in decks that you want to get a specific card for. Like any deck where you're like, I need a specific card for my strategy to work. This is very, very good, and we need our Rose Queens. You can maybe get your Alterplane Arbiter if you really need some gas, because these synergize very well. This can put 3 2-drops back into your hand, and then you can evo your Rose Queen and then reveal them and get your play points back, and all that kind of good stuff. But I digress. Tartman is good for getting the cards that you need. Either some of these cards that we saw. Maybe you want to get a removal piece, but getting the Arbiter or the Rose Queen is almost always very, very good. Cool. So we have that, and then every other card in the deck is a 2-drop card. A lot of them are pretty simple. So let's go over the followers first. So we have the Other Omen. We have Valnarake, Omen of Lust. This is the other Abyss Omen. 2-drop 2/2. If Sanguine's active for you, she has Storm. Strike, deal X damage to enemy leader, where X equals the number of times your leader has a lost defense this turn. This actually can stack up quite a bit in this deck. And then if your leader's defense is exactly 7, she gets +2/+2, which is pretty good. Running 2 Valnarake, she's pretty good. She's not the best. We don't have the whole deck built around her, but she's pretty good. We do have this and this. These 2 cards actually synergize pretty well with Valnarake. So we have Demonium Punk Devil, another staple, 2-drop 2/3 with Ward. You can take 2 damage and then give him Bane, which is permanent. Just give him permanent Bane. And then when he dies, you heal 2. Just a really nice 2-drop, and it synergizes with Valnarake, so we can, activate that Sanguine. But even better to activate Sanguine, we have a brand new card, Zealot of Lust, 2-drop 3/2, and then you can give your leader -1 health, and then select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 1 damage, and you can activate this twice per turn. So you can get multiple instances of damage to your leader with Valnarake, so you can kind of like get that synergy. So very, very good, and also really good at just killing puppets or anything with 1 health, 2 health. This card's quite good in this current meta. So I actually like the Zealot of Lust a lot. And the last two cards, well, we'll save the best for last. We have Deblame, Duke and Dame. This is another just really, really solid card that you see in a lot of Abyss decks. 2-drop, 2-2. On Fanfare, bear the top card of your deck, so really good at Necro charging, and then it evos for 1. And then when they evo, they become a 3-3 that says, select an enemy fall on the field, deal it 2 damage, and if you have Necro charge 10, you can deal 4 damage instead. So this is a really, really nice 2-for-1, 4 damage to something, and then it can 3. So yeah, Deblame, very good, used in a lot of decks. All right, so now this is possibly one of the best 2-drops, one of the new cards, and one of the cards that really makes this deck just jam very well. 2-drop, 2-3, Vuela, One-Winged Demon. So for 1 play point, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a 2-drop card, which as you see almost the entire deck is, with a couple exceptions, put it into EX area, and then it costs 2 less to play this turn. You can only activate this once per turn, but that's for 1. So essentially, it draws you a card and lets you play it for free. Super, super powerful. This is an incredibly good card. If you are playing against this deck, this is a kill on sight card. It is insanely strong. Do not underestimate Vuela. Vuela is an absolute unit. This card's cracked. All right, let's talk about the remainder of the deck. It's pretty simple, right? We have another new card, Kiss of Lust. This is a 2-drop. Give your leader +2, so you heal for 2, and draw a card. And then if Sanguine is active for you, draw 2 cards. So once again, we have our Sanguine enablers, or not that one, the Zealot of Lust and the Demonium. Sanguine enablers, so we can kind of get two cards off of this. There are some versions of this deck where I run another version of Kiss of Lust. Potentially instead of the Sonata. So you can play around with cutting back on one Sonata, especially if you're not going as hard into Rune, and then putting another Kiss of Lust. But currently we are running 2 here. Next up we have Thundering Roar, just another fantastic card. Necrocharge 10, you get to choose both of the effects, otherwise you just choose one. You have your opponent discard a random card, or you can select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 3 damage. Really, really good. We do care about Necrocharge in this deck, so anything that does the Necrocharge stuff is really good. Razory Claw, 2 damage to yourself, 3 to any other target. Really good for turning on your Sanguine, and also just anything else. Another fantastic Necrocharge card, Whispers of a Dream, one of the most expensive cards in the deck actually. It's a 2-drop quick spell. Select any follower that costs 3 or less, destroy it, and bear the top card of your deck. So this actually Necrocharges you 2, itself, and plus the top card of your deck. Really, really solid. Another Abyss staple. And then finally, just a Shadowverse Evolved staple in general. We have our full set of Surefire Bullets to kill off pesky Evo followers. Or just 2 damage to any other follower. So yeah, this deck's really sweet. You have a lot of like low to the ground cards. You almost never get stuck early in the game because you have so many 2-drops, but it excels into the late game as you can go into your Rulenize, into your Altar Plane Arbiters, and then finally into your Crimson Rose Queens. And there's some really good ways to come back, especially with the Arbiter getting those 3 cards back from your bin. So yeah, I like this deck a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It's an interesting take on Abyss, and I really like it. Don't worry, this is not the only Abyss deck in this video. We have 2 more that we'll cover at the end. But next up, let's talk about the other breakout deck of this format, Puppet Forest. Next up is Puppet Forest, or Puppetry Forest, however you want to say it. This is the other new breakout deck of the Alterchaotica meta. This deck is super, super fun. Traditionally speaking, Forest is one of my least favorite classes to play, though I really, really enjoy them all. But this deck is an absolute blast and one of my favorite of the season. Super, super cool. We have a lot of tokens. We're gonna need all these tokens, as true for any Forestcraft deck, to be honest. We have our Evo deck, by the way. Once again, I like to theme my sleeved cards, but even better, we have our full Orcus sleeves. Oh, these are great. All right, so let's talk about this deck. So this is a deck that cares about making puppets, and then you can turn those puppets into bigger and scarier puppets. It's a deck that's all about playing multiple cards in a turn, getting those combo activations, as well as just swarming the board with a lot of puppets. Puppets now, puppets for days. Puppets for days. And other than that, it's kind of a simple deck. I actually really, really like it. I think it's a ton of fun. So let's talk about some of the key cards. So we'll talk about the big headliner here, and that, of course, is Orcus Puppet Girl. But before we do that, I want to show off what puppets are, just so you know what they are. So puppets are very simple. It's a 1-drop neutral follower. That's a 1/1 with rush. Unlike digital, these do not go away at the end of turn. They stay as long as they're not killed. So yes, we have our 1-drop 1/1 rush puppets. Now we have 2 special puppets. One of them is Victoria. She's a 0-drop 4/1 puppet with rush and a sail, and on fanfare you draw a card, and then she also just counts as a puppet. Really, really powerful. And then the other one is Lloyd, top hat puppet, 0-drop 2/4 puppet with ward, fanfare heal 2, and he also counts as a puppet. We will also care, one card that we have in the deck will generate a fairy token. We'll get to that. So we have our fairy token. You only really need 1 or 2 fairy tokens. The Wisp is just here left over from previous deck. But puppets, you need the puppets. I would say for this deck, get yourself a good smattering of like, I don't know, for the regular puppets, I don't know, 6 to 10 puppets. And then you actually do need a couple Victorias and Lloyds because, well, you'll see why. You'll see why. So now let's finally talk about the headliner of this deck, Orcus Puppet Girl. Look, I have all three versions of her. I have the regular legendary, the super legendary, and of course the ultimate here. So she's a pretty simple card. She's a 3-drop 2/2. Well, she's a simple card at face value. She's gonna get a little bit complicated. 3-drop 2/2, and all she does is Evo 2 effects. She has 2 Evo effects. That's right. She can Evo into 2 different forms. The first form is just cost 1, and when you do, you evolve her into Orcus Resolute Puppet, or you can pay 4 and evolve her into Orcus Vengeful Puppet, but you can only do this if you have at least 3 puppetry cards in your cemetery. She is a 3-drop 2/2. That's all she does. So what we really care about now are the evolved forms. So we have run 2 Evo Orcus in our deck, and so here is Orcus Resolute Puppet. This is the one that doesn't have any requirements, just a 1-drop to Evo. So she becomes a 3/3, and on evolve, you summon 2 puppet tokens. So just 2 1/1s with rush, and then once on each of your turns, when a puppet you control leaves the field, put a Lloyd token into your EX area. Remember, Lloyd is the 0-drop 2/4 that heals you and has ward. So you summon some puppets, and then you can jam in the puppets because they have rush, and if one dies, then you can get a Lloyd, which is good. Only once per turn you get a Lloyd. Now, what makes this really, really sweet, and I know some people actually just sleeve up the opposite sides just in case, which, you know, if I had some extras, maybe I should actually look into doing that, but we have the Orcus Vengeful Puppet. This one is a house. So she becomes a 4/4, and on evolve, you summon 4 puppet tokens. So she basically fills the board. Then, while this card is in your field, each puppet on your field has a sail. And then whenever a puppet you control leaves the field, select an enemy leader or follower and deal it 2 damage. So that's a lot of damage. That's 4 damage from Orcus, 4 damage from the puppets, and another 8 total damage if you sack all of the puppets. So Orcus is just an absolute unit and does an absurd amount of damage. One of the key parts to this deck for sure. We'll just leave this one. We'll leave this one in the Vengeful Puppet form. Like I said, I have seen people bring along both sides, just so you don't have to take them out and swap them or whatever. But yes, there's our puppets. We got the Orcus there. She's fantastic. Also, we have Orcus's rival, Zwei, Murderous Puppet. This is another really, really sweet one. But this one is better on her just regular face side. So she's a 3-drop 2/2. She evos for 2, and then on fanfare, select a puppet in your EX area, and you turn it into a Victoria, which is the 4/1 with rush and a sail, and draws you a card that costs 0. Very, very strong. So she turns one of your other puppets in your EX area, has to be in your EX area, into a Victoria token, which is really good. And then when you evo her, we're only running 1 of her in the evo deck. When you evo her, you can make it so one of your Victorias doesn't take damage on this turn, and she becomes a 4/4. She goes up from a 2/2 to a 4/4, and she makes it so your Victoria doesn't take damage. Really good. We're just running 1 of her though, because that not taking damage effect, it's pretty good, but it's not the best. All right, so most of the other cards in the deck, they're either going to make us puppets, or benefit from making puppets. That's the name of the game here. So we have just this bronze card. Pretty simple, 3-drop, 3/4, ward, put 2 puppets into your EX area on Fanfare. Pretty simple, we just have 1, so just a nice little ward unit that makes us some puppets. We have Junk. This is an absolute key card in this deck. 1-drop, 1/2, put 2 puppets into your EX area. I want to mention now at this point that we are running 3 Nature's Guidance, and Nature's Guidance is a pretty classic Forestcraft card. It's a 1-drop, you select a card in your field and you return it to its hand, owner's hand, and then you draw a card. And then the reason this is really good in this deck is because we have a lot of very strong Fanfare effects that make us puppets, like Junk. And so you're going to want to use your Nature's Guidance on stuff like Junk to make puppets. So there, that's the Nature's Guidance. Next up we have Flower Doll, really pretty card, 2-drop, 2/2. Fanfare, put a puppet into your EX area, and then you can Evo her for 1. And when you Evo her, she's kind of like unkilling or undying. She's pretty cool. She's a 3/3. And then on last words, you summon a puppetry follower, or select 1 puppetry follower in your cemetery, including this one, and add it to your hand. So you can basically get back any puppetry follower, including herself, when she dies. So you get to pick 1. If you have to pick her, you have to pick her. But you can get anything else, like, I don't know, the Junk. But you're going to want to get something a little bit bigger, like a Zwei or like an Orcus or something like that. But still pretty good, running 2 in the Evo deck. And then running the full 3 in the main. We have Master. This is Liam, Master of Puppets. Yes. Anyway, 2-drop, 2/2. Fanfare, put 2 puppets in your EX area. Pretty good. And then you can use his ability. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you can reveal a puppetry card from among them. Put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. You can only do this if you have at least 3 puppetry cards in your cemetery. There's so many puppetry cards in this deck. That's not that hard to do. And he's just a 2-drop. So, yeah, Liam is fantastic. All the puppet synergy. And here's our big drop. So we have Noah, Vengeful Puppeteer, 5-drop, 3/6. Noah is a house. He evos for 2, and then Fanfare, put 2 puppets in your EX area. Sure. Whenever a puppet is put into your EX area, give it +1 and Storm. Or whenever a puppet is put onto your field, give it +1 attack and Storm. This is crazy. This is nuts. Especially if you have a bunch of Victorias in your EX area. Remind you, Victorias are the 0-drop 4/1s. And so giving these +1 attacks, so a 5/1 with Storm that costs 0 is nuts. Is actually nuts. But that's not all. Noah also has an Evo form. So let's check out what Evo Noah does here. So Evo Noah is a 4/7. When while this card is in your field, any puppet you play costs 1 less. So all of your little normal puppets now cast 0. And it still has the other effect. Whenever a puppet is put on your field, give it +1 attack and Storm. Running just 1 Evo Noah. The best part of that is the front side. Especially, like I said, comboing that with Lloyd's and Victoria's. But, Evo is very good. You know what's really good when all your puppets cost 0? Anastasia. So Anastasia is a 5-drop 2/4. On Fanfare, you recover 2 play points, and whenever you play a card during your turn, if it's the 3rd card you've played, you get 2 play points back. And then if it's the 5th card, you give all your dudes +1/+1. So basically, you have Anastasia and you just play a bunch of puppets and pump the squad, and you recover some play points. Anastasia is just another staple forest card at this point. Very strong. Works very well with puppets. You know what works really well with puppets? Sakuna, Brave and Small. So this is another just a little 1-drop. Sakuna is another staple, 1-drop, 1/1, evos for 1. And then when she evos, she has Storm as a 2/2. And then on combo 3, you give her +1/+1. And then on combo 5, you give her +3/+3. So it's like 5/5 Storm. It just works really well with puppets and Anastasia. Especially when you have a bunch of puppets in your EX area that cost 0. So you can like, you have your Anastasia and you can be like puppet, get some play points back. Puppet, pump the team. Or maybe even play your Sakuna, puppet, pump the team, Evo Sakuna. She gets +2 or +3/+3, and then an additional +1/+1 from Anastasia. Yeah, it's just, you can do some crazy stuff. Next up we have Fashionista Nelcha. Simple card, 2-drop 2/3, pretty good stats. And you can use her ability, and if you have combo 3 active, you choose 1. Select one of your followers and give it +2/+2 permanently, or you select an enemy follower and give it -2/-2. Really solid. Great if you can, play multiple puppets in a turn. Really good. We have a classic starter deck card, Rose Gardener. This is just a nice little removal. It's just a 3/3 that evos for 1, and then when you evolve the Rose Gardener, we are running 2 in the evo deck, 4/4, and then you bounce an enemy follower, and if you have combo, you draw a card, which is really good. And that's going to be it for the evo deck. And then rounding out the rest of the deck, we have some removal. Elven Archery is just a 1-drop that you select 2 enemy followers on the field and deal them each 1 damage. Really good for picking off like other puppets or any other small things. But if you have combo 3, you deal 2 damage instead. So this is basically 4 damage for 1 play point, which is really, really good. Here's the only card that makes us a fairy. It's just a 2-drop Elf Song. Summon a fairy and combo 3. Give all your forest followers +1/+1. The one thing to note here is the puppets are not forest followers. The puppets are neutral followers. So it will not pump the regular puppets, but it will pump your Victoria and Lloyds, which is kind of what you want to do. All about the Victoria and Lloyds. So pump all of them by +1/+1. And then finally, speaking of Lloyds and Victoria, this is one of my favorite cards in the deck. Heartless Battle. It says select 2 cards named Puppet in your EX area, transform one into Lloyd and 1 into Victoria. Yeah, this is great. So this is one of the cards where you have all those cards that put like 2 puppets in our EX area. We have like Noah that puts 2 puppets. We have Liam that puts 2 puppets. We have Junk that puts 2 puppets. And then you drop your Heartless Battle. This is how you fill up your EX area with your Lloyds and your Victorias. Yep. Yeah, this deck's a lot of fun. I don't know. It's just like you play your puppets. You can smash out for lots of damage. You can stack up your Victorias if you don't, immediately need them, and then OTK your opponent with Liam. I think it's Liam, right? He's the one who just gives you +1 in Storm, right? No, Noah. Noah gives you +1 in Storm. So yeah, you combo that with your Noah. So you can drop your Noah, and then you just Victoria, and punch him in the face for 10 damage. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like this deck. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommended. And I think it's one of the most affordable decks in the game right now, because the only legendary card you run in the entire deck is Orcus. Everything else is silver, bronze, or gold. So the deck is very approachable, very affordable, a lot of fun to play. Highly recommended. Next up, we have the return of one of my favorite decks. This is Thief Sword, and this deck, ooh, this one is so much fun. I've been brewing this one quite a bit. So let's get talking about my Thief Sword deck. Here are the sleeves. The sleeves we're rocking for the Thief Sword deck, and well, let's get talking. So, as you'd guess, this is an Orcus deck, and it's all about just milling our opponent with our Thief effects and just doing sword shenanigans, hitting our opponent in the face, playing a lot of low to the ground stuff. We have what I call a 1-drop package in the deck, and we have a bunch of like Thief cards as well. So let's just talk about it from, let's do the non-follower ones first. We have the Usurping Spineblade, and we have the new card, Dance of Usurpation. Let's talk about the Dance first. So Dance is a 4-drop spell. Select any number of enemy followers on the field and deal 4 damage divided among them, which is pretty solid. But if you have at least 10 cards in the opponent's cemetery, you deal 8 damage divided between them instead. Or if they have 20 cards in their cemetery, you deal 8 damage, and you also deal 8 damage to the leader. So if you have 20 cards, you deal 8 damage among all their stuff, and then you dome them for 8. Pretty good little finisher for this deck. Also, it's a nice little board wipe. You can get a nice, 1, 2, 3, or 4 4/1s with this card. It's really solid. And then the Usurping Spineblade is a classic. It's just a quick select enemy follower in the field. You deal 3 damage, and your opponent puts the top card of their deck into their cemetery. We're going to be calling that mill. So they will mill 1. And then if there's at least 10 cards in their cemetery, you deal 2 more damage. So it's 5 damage for 2, which is really good at quick speed. Yep, and it also mills them, which is a big part of the deck. Now we have something that I really, like I said, a 1-drop package. So I'm gonna kind of pull out all of my 1-drop package cards, because I don't know, I just really like the 1-drop package, and I think this deck works pretty well with it. And this is something that I've just been brewing and playing around. So we have a lot of cards that care about thief type stuff. And then we have kind of like some cards that care about like commander type stuff. So there's a lot of things going on with this deck, but I think it synergizes really, really well. So we have 2 cards that really care about 1-drops, and I think they're pretty decent. So I run a 1 of, this is a Nagi Hisikawa, which is, this is the ultimate reversion is a Miroir. 4-drop, 4/4. On Fanfare, you banish 2 1-drop cards in your cemetery, and you can choose up to 2 of the following effects. You can select an enemy follow on the field and destroy it. You can deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. You can draw a card and discard a card. That's so good, so much value. Blow up your thing, draw a card, discard a card, deal you 2 damage, blow up your thing. You almost always blow up their thing, but I like this as a nice little one of in the deck. All right, so we also run Fina. So this is a card that saw a lot of play before, and I think she's really, really good in this particular deck. She's a 2-drop, 3/2. On Fanfare, you can choose one of the following. So you can either look at the top 5 cards of your deck and reveal a 1-cost follower you put in your hand, or you can select an enemy follower that costs 1 and you destroy it, which is really, really good. I want to mention that it has to be exactly 1. You can't blow up 1 or less. So you can't blow up the 0-drop of like puppets, right? But still, really, really good. Super versatile and synergizes well with all of our 1-drops. So my version of the deck is running 9 1-drops. I did have a version that ran 12, but I ended up cutting that just to kind of test the waters a little bit, lean heavier into the thief stuff. And so what are our 1-drops? Well, we have Maid Leader, classic card, 1-drop 1/1 evos for 2. It's an officer maid running 3 in the deck. And then when you evo your Maid Leader, you get to go search your deck for any follower with the evo keyword. So she becomes a 2/2. On evolve, search your deck for any follower with evolve, and then you put it in your hand. So it's a nice little way to tutor. We're running 2 of the Maid Leaders there. And then we're also running the Servant of Usurpation, just an absolute baller card for Thief Sword. 1-drop, 1/2, but it's really a 2/2 because on Fanfare, each opponent puts the top card of their deck into the cemetery, so mill 1. And then on your turn, whenever an opponent mills, they get +1 attack. So during your turn, whenever a card is put into your opponent's deck from the deck into the cemetery, it gets +1 attack. And so if you can do that multiple times, it just gets pumped up multiple times. And so it does it on its own effect. So it's essentially a 1-drop 2/2, but it can get bigger. It's really good. And then we have Kagemitsu. I always like reasons to put Kagemitsu in the deck, and this really works. So Kagemitsu is a 1-drop 1/1 with Rush, and on Fanfare, he gets +X, where X equals a number of face-up evolved followers in your Evo deck. So we want to Evo a bunch of stuff. If X is at least 3, he gets Assail. And if X is at least 7, you give him Strike, refresh this follower, perform this once per turn. Kagemitsu is an absolute house. He's not really something you want to play on turn 1. He's something you want to play a little bit later in the game after you've evolved some followers. And I would highly recommend just liberally evolving your followers as much as you can. Kagemitsu is pretty sweet. So that's our 1-drop package. Now we have a bunch of like other sweet stuff. So let's just kind of go over this really quick. So we have our Apostle of Usurpation. It's a nice little 2-for-1 that can draw us a card, so it could be even a 3-for-1. It's a 4-drop 3/4. On Fanfare, each opponent mills 2 cards, which is pretty sweet. And if there's at least 10 cards in your opponent's cemetery after you do that, you get a draw card. And then he also evos for 1. So just even without the evo, he's really solid. But when you evo, he also gets to just kind of like kill a dude. So he becomes a 4/5, and then you select any fall on the field and you deal 4 damage. That's really good. So if you mill your opponent 2, draw a card, and shoot something for 4, and then he's also a 4/5, very good. Very, very good. We have a new card, the Sword Flash Panther. This card is so good. 4-drop, 4/3 with Rush, and then on Fanfare, you select a sword follower that costs 2 or less in your cemetery. You just summon it, and it gets +1 attack. And we have a whole bunch of 2-drops that's really, really good at getting back. You can get back our Octress. You can get back Ralmia. You can get back Zealot of Usurpation. It can get back not Fina, but it can get back Kagemitsu or the Servant or even Maid Leader if you really need to go tutor for something else. So yeah, it's really, really good. The Sword Flash Panther is quite nuts. Yeah, this card is so good. And then Azor, Duke of the Mist, is very similar to the Panther. He just costs a little bit more. So he's a 4-drop, 3/4 with Ward, and you can Evo him for 3. And when you do, he gets 2 dudes back. He becomes a 4/5, still has Ward, and you pick 2 Sword Followers that cost 2 or less in your cemetery, and you summon both of them. So this is one of the cards that I would call like an army in a can, and I think he's really good. I think he's really, really good. He's just a silver card, but he's like so cracked. You just get 3 bodies worth of value just for him. Though to do it all in one turn, it does cost 7. So it's a little spendy. All right, this is one of the best finishers in the deck. Disciple of Usurpation. It's a 3-drop, 3/2 with Storm, and then on strike, each opponent mills 1. And then if they have at least 10 cards, this gets a permanent +2 attack. So it's basically like a 5-attack Storm. That if they have 10 cards in their bin or 9 cards in their bin, they'll get the 10th one on attack. This card's super good. This is a card that it just wins. It just wins games. Next up, we have Aether of the Warrior Wing. So this is a new card, and one that I'm a little like on the fence about currently because I'm running this over Gemstaff Commander, and Gemstaff Commander kind of does the same thing, but a little different. So this is a little more restrictive, but it gives you an additional effect. So this is a 3-drop, 2/3. Fanfare, you search for a commander or officer card, and I do believe there's like 15 to 20 of those in the deck at this point. You add it in your hand and you shuffle your deck. Then, at the start of your end phase, if there's at least 7 Sword Followers in your cemetery, give each follower on your field +1/+1. So there's a little bit of a non-bow here, right? So we have cards that pull stuff out of the cemetery. We have Azord, we have the Sword Flash Panther, and then we have Miroir. So we have a couple of cards that are like kind of a little bit of a non-bow with this, but I don't know, it's still pumping your whole squad by +1/+1 is still pretty good, and it can go search for itself. It itself is a Commander Lightborn. Other cards you can go search for are Ralmia, so you can go search for your Ralmia. You can't search for any of your Thief cards because they're not commanders or officers, but you can go get your Azord, you can go get your Sword Flash Panther, or Kagemitsu, or even your Maid Leader, if you need to. So I think it's a pretty good option. I've seen other versions of the deck run that spell that gives +3/+2 and Rush, and it itself is, I think it's an officer card, which you can go search for. But I don't know. I like this version of the deck currently, though. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about this. Gemstaff Commander is a 3-drop 3/2, and you just go search for any Sword Follower. Period. It doesn't have the extra effect, but it just gets you anything. So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I think there's a defensible way. Anyway, let's talk about the last few cards. These cards are pretty solid here. Let's talk about this guy. He's a little bit less interesting. He's a new card, 2-drop 3/2 with Rush, really good stats. Fanfare, each opponent mills 1. Then if there's at least 10 cards in the cemeteries, put the top card of your deck in your EX area. So it kind of draws you a card, sort of. Really good. It's a really efficient card. Now we have 2 legendaries that we've already shown before in many deck techs, but we'll showcase them here. We have Ralmia, Sonic Racer, 2-drop 3/2 with Rush. Once again, really good stats. And you can Evo her for 3, but her Evo costs 1 less for every follower on your field. And when you Evo her, we're only running 1 in the Evo deck. She becomes a 4/3 with Storm, and on Evolve you can pay an additional 3, and you can give her +1/+1 for every other follower on your field. So this is really good. Ralmia is super good with either Azord or Sword Flash Panther. I really like her with Sword Flash Panther because you can get Ralmia back with the Sword Flash Panther, and then Panther gives her +1 attack, and then her Evo is going to be reduced by 1 because you have at least a Sword Flash Panther, and then if you evolve her, she'll get another like nice little bonus. So she works really well with that. She also works pretty well with Azord. Just have to be wary that you can't evolve 2 followers in the same turn. So you can't like evolve Azord and then evolve Ralmia. But still, really good card. And then finally, of course, we have Octress. She's kind of like one of the reasons you play Thief. She's super good. 2-drop 2/2. She evos for 2, or you can evo her for 0 if your opponent has 10 cards in their cemetery. And then on Fanfare, each opponent mills 2. And then you can also just pay 8 and select a card in your opponent's cemetery and you just play it. Now, when you evo her, things get pretty spicy. So on Evolve, you select a card in your opponent's cemetery and you put it in your EX area. So you get to steal one of your opponent's things. And then she still has that you can pay 8 and then also play something from your opponent's cemetery for free. But also, if there's 10 cards in your opponent's cemetery, any card you play from your EX area at all costs 2 less. So it's really, really good. She synergizes very well with that dude, the new dude, who puts top card of your deck into your EX area. So she can make that cost less. But you can also like steal your opponent's stuff, play it for free. Mills too. Octress is just so good. she's so good. There's a reason I have two of these fancy Octresses. Maybe I should splurge and get the third one. But she's super good. And this deck's a lot of fun. And if you like a mill deck that also kills your opponent, hey, you should play some Thief Sword. I like this deck. I like this deck a lot. Next up, we have Runecraft, and now once again another returning archetype with Lashena. So this is Destruction Rune. Yeah, this deck is also really, really fun. This deck, by the way, and here we have our beautiful Daria and the little token if I want to use it. But this deck is it's a pretty interesting deck because I don't have a high win rate with this deck, but it's always so fun to play. And I think that's like the biggest compliment I can say about a deck is that it's really fun to play even though I don't win with it very much. Our sleeves, by the way, beautiful, beautiful witchy sleeves. All right, so get our Evo points kind of out of the way. So this deck is the return of Lashena, and it uses a bunch of new destruction cards as well as the new Sweet Tooth Medusa. The Evo deck for this is, if you look at the other decks and you're like, oh, those are pretty affordable decks. This one is on the less affordable side because we are running 3 Merlins and 3 Agnes Tachyon and the Sweet Tooth Medusa and our one of Curse Crafter because it is restricted. All right, so this deck is all about Lashena and the Idol Tree card. So Lashena is a super simple card. She's a 4-drop 2/4. And on Fanfare, you put a Destruction in white and a Destruction in black in your EX area. That's all she does. Okay, what are those cards? Well, a Destruction in black is an Amulet token, Omen Idol Tree. Idol Tree does matter. Lashena is an Idol Tree card. It's a 2-drop. At the start of your main phase, deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. So you put these out and then just hit your opponent every single turn, on your turn. And then Destruction in white is the opposite. It's a 1-drop, and at the start of your main phase, you heal for 2. Also, it's an Idol Tree Amulet token. So the idea is that you play some of these out, and then every turn, you just chip down your opponent, and you control the game, and basically chip down your opponent, 1 turn at a time. We also have these serpents that we'll talk about when we get to Medusa. All right, so yeah, that's kind of the basic thing. We play our Lashena, we control the board, we get our destructions out. You don't want to play too many destructions because you still want to be able to play other stuff on your field. Remember, you can only have 5 cards on your field at a time for Shadowverse, but I would say a couple. Having a couple out and leaving at least 1 or 2 spaces is generally what I would advise, unless you know you can win the game. Okay, so we have Sweet Tooth Medusa. So this is one of the new cards. 4-drop, 3/4. She's a Mage Gorgon, so she's a mage, but she's not an Idol Tree card. She evos for 2. Fanfare, you search your deck for a card that costs 2 or less, reveal it, add it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Insanely good. Like, that's just insanely good. Tutors for anything that costs 2 or less. And then also, on your turn, whenever an enemy follower is put from the field to the cemetery, summon a Serpent token. And then a Serpent token is a 0/1 with Bane. So here's a Serpent token, 0/1 with Bane. All you need to do is be in combat, and the Bane will kill anything. Pretty good. It doesn't need to do damage to kill. So what kind of 2-drops can we get? And by the way, this is just any card that costs 2 or less. You can go get your Agnes Tachyons. You can get your Lamplets, your Surefire Bullets. So basically removal. We can get more removal. We have some of our new cards. Joy of Destruction, Destructive Refrain, or Monochromatic Destruction. So we can get any of our destruction cards, including the new one. We'll set these aside. These are going to be really important. Or you can get something pretty sweet like a Agnes Tachyon. And then when you evolve her, she does more stuff. When you evolve her, she is a 4/5. On evolve, select up to 2 enemy followers in the field and deal 5 damage between them. And then she also has the effect, during your turn, whenever an enemy follower is put from the field to the cemetery, you get a serpent. So if you kill 2 things, you get 2 serpents. And then as a quick effect, you can bury 2 cards named Serpent, and the next card you play this turn costs 2 less. I don't know, maybe like the one that you went and searched for. She's so good. Yeah, Sweet Tooth Medusa is really, really good. Alright, so those are 2 new kind of like headliner cards. We have a whole bunch of stuff that just does basically Rune stuff, but let's talk about the destruction things before we just go over all of the generic Rune goodness. So here's our new card, Joy of Destruction. It's a 0-drop card. It says, if there's an Idolatry card on your field, you recover 1 play point. If there's a Lashena on your field, draw a card. Super, super good. So if there's a Lashena on your field, you recover 1 play point and you draw a card and it costs 0. This is cracked and you can just... It's just a free card. It's so good. It's better than a free card because it actually gives you a play point back. This card's nuts. So yeah, this is a very, very good card for this deck. And it's kind of what the deck really needed to be explosive. And then we have our returning destruction cards. We have Monochromatic Destruction. This card's fantastic. 2-drop quick. You select an enemy on the field, you deal it 2 damage, and if there's at least 2 Idolatry cards in your field, deal 2 damage to the leader, and you heal 2. So 2 to a follower, 2 to the leader, and you heal 2. Really, really good, but you need at least 2 Idolatry cards. So Lashena, or 2 of the destructions. And then we have Destructive Refrain. So this is another really good card. You can go tutor with Medusa because it's a 1-drop and it has 2 effects. You can choose one, search your deck for Lashena, put in your hand. Great, go get your Lashena. Or you can pay an additional 2 and then deal X damage to each enemy follower, where X equals the number of Idolatry cards on your field. So once again, I wouldn't recommend putting too many Idolatry, like too many of the amulets on your field. But having like 3 or 4 can be really strong. So you can just 3 to your opponent's board. Really good. Yeah, excellent. All right, so let's quickly go over the rest of the deck. A lot of this stuff, actually, let's talk about this guy too. I was gonna say, a lot of this stuff you're gonna be very familiar with already, but we have another new card. So this is the Zealot of Destruction. This guy's pretty cracked if you can set it up. He's a 3-drop, 3/4, fanfare. If there's at least 3 Idolatry cards on your field, and he himself is an Idolatry card, so you just need 2 others. Select an enemy fall on the field, destroy it, deal 2 damage to the enemy leader, and heal your leader for 2. He's so good. So, blow something up, shoot your opponent for 2, and heal for 2 just for 3. But you need 2 other Idolatry cards. You need 3 total, but he himself is an Omen Idolatry Cutthroat. Very, very nice card for this deck. Let's see. We have our little batch of Evo followers. We'll do those last because they're pretty simple. So we have Lamplit, pretty simple card. 1-drop, quick, deal 2 damage. It does more damage if we have a racing follower. We do have an Uma card in the deck, but we're not going to be racing Miss Tachyon with this deck. We have Surefire Bullet. You're going to see this a lot in this video. Just one of the best removal cards in the game, and it continues to be since set 2. 2 damage to a follower, or 4 if it's evolved. I really, really like Full Bloom Panorama. It's just such a sweet 2-for-1. It's a 5-drop quick, and you select up to 2 enemy followers, and you destroy them. Period. Just blow up 2 of your things. It's super good. I like this quite a bit, and it's really, really good, especially in this deck where you have like your Idolatry destructions out, so you can, not feel too bad on your turn. If you have a couple of these out, just blowing up 2 of your opponent's things, and then, you heal some, deal some damage to them. Pretty good. And then we have Rhymewind. We have a bunch of like 1-ofs essentially, and I want to mention basically all of the spells. Just any of the spells, which is a lot of the deck, to be honest. All of these cards, if they cost, well, all of these cards are going to be tutorable to some degree by Agnes and Merlin, which is just nuts. We have a huge toolbox in this deck with a lot of different effects. So we can go search for a lot of different effects, essentially. Plus all of the search from the Medusa. So we have Rhymewind. It's just a nice little way to get rid of a follower, nice removal. You select, it has to be unevolved though. You select unevolved follower, return to the owner's hand, and if you have spell chain 10, put on top of the deck. Top of the deck is absolutely brutal. We have Truth's Education. or Adjudication. It's a 3-drop. Choose one of the following. If you have at least 2 mage followers on your field, you get to choose 2. We actually have a few mage followers, so that could happen. You get to draw 2 cards, or deal 3 damage to each enemy leader, or select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 3 damage. Yeah, really solid. Just a nice little one of. Need to draw some cards, need to shoot your opponent in the face. It's good. Witch Bolt is one of my favorites for Merlin. 3-drop, select an enemy fall on the field, deal 5 damage, and if there's an evoed follower on your field, draw a card. Really, really good. So 5 damage and draw a card for 3 is really solid. Here's Fall from Grace, just a catch-all way to kill anything. 3-drop, quick, select an F follower on the field, banish it, give its leader +2 health, and they get a draw card. So they get to draw a card and heal, but you just banish anything. You can also do this to one of your followers if you need to. If you need that life gain and you know, card draw. It could happen, but it's also just a really good way of killing a big threat. It's a quick speed card too. Really, really good. Fate's Hand, simple. Quick speed, draw 2 cards. Spell chain 10, recover 1 play point. So it's a nice way to refill our hand, draw some cards. We have Concentration. This is a 3-drop. Give our leader +3 health and draw a card. And then it has an Earthright, you get to draw 2. We're not doing Earthright stuff, so it's just a heal 3, draw a card. Just a good way to go heal some life. And then finally we have Crimson Meteor Storm. 7-drop, or 5 if you have Spell Chain 10. 6 damage to each enemy fall on the field, and 3 damage to each enemy leader. Really good board wipe. Alright, now with all that stuff in mind, let's talk about these last few cards. So, Merlin. If you don't know what Merlin does, Merlin's a huge deal, and it makes a lot of these cards just a huge toolbox. So Merlin's a 3-drop, 3/2. You evo her for 2, and on fanfare you search your deck for any spell, reveal it, put it in your hand. So, and you can do classic Merlin things like, you know, play Merlin, go get your Witch Bolt, play the Witch Bolt, deal 5 damage. Then you can evo your Merlin to replay the Witch Bolt for another 5 damage, and you draw a card. It's just really good. Merlin is just super good. So yeah, we're running 3 of the evo Merlins in the evo. 3 in the main, and then we have Agnes Tachyon, which is similar but not really. 2-drop, 2/2, evos for 1. Whenever you play a spell, select an enemy follower on the field and give it -1/-1 permanently. Really, really good. And then when you evo Agnes Tachyon, you select a spell in your cemetery and you put it into your hand. So Merlin lets you replay 3-drop or less spells for free, and then Agnes Tachyon lets you just get them back, so you can get stuff back like your Crimson Meteor Storm, anything that costs more than 3. Which is in this deck, Crimson Meteor Storm and the Full Bloom Panorama. So you can rebuy these with Agnes Tachyon, or anything else really. It's just super good, very, very efficient, and there's a reason why these were kind of expensive cards for a while there. And I realized I put the Merlins in the wrong pile. And then the final card in the deck is the restricted one of Cursecrafter, who is just an absolute unit. So here's our paper Shikigami token. So Cursecrafter, 4-drop, 2/2, evos for 1, summon a paper Shikigami token. So this is, I use a little custom one with the art drawn by my artist friend, Honshu. So what a paper Shikigami is, it's a 2/2, last words, you draw a card and you discard a card. But you can also bury a paper Shikigami follower on your field and deal 4 damage to one of your opponent's followers. Yeah, it's really good. And then when you evo Cursecrafter, he becomes a 3/3, and on evolve, select enemy from the field and deal 2 damage. If there's at least 7 spells or Onmyoji cards in your cemetery, deal it 4 damage instead. We have a lot of spells on the deck, so pretty easy to do. So you can on evolve, you hit something for 4, and then you can still sack your paper Shikigami and shoot something for another 4. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 damage for 1 card. And 5 play points. It's pretty good. Yeah, there's a reason why this guy is restricted. Very, very strong. It's just really, really efficient. Not super, overpowered or whatever. It's just so efficient that it needed to be restricted. So anyway, so yeah, this is our Lashena deck. I think this deck's a ton of fun. Like I said, this is one of the decks that, for whatever reason, I end up losing with it more than I do win with it, at least compared to a lot of the other decks, but I still really love it. It's so much fun to play. And if you're a better pilot of this deck than me, then that's awesome. I think this deck is still really good. And I would recommend it. Lashena's great. All right, let's talk about Dragon. This, I keep saying it, but all the decks in this format are so much fun. So we have Dragoncraft, and I've been kind of a little bit out on Dragoncraft recently, but man, this new version is so sick. Well, it's not a new version, it's just a returning version. This is the return of Galmew and Disdain Dragon. So here are my sleeves, by the way. Gotta get the nice Forte sleeves rocking. Yeah. And of course the beautiful Forte leader. All right, so yeah, this is the return of Disdain Dragon. As you saw the return of Thief Sword and Lashena, we have the return of Disdain Dragon. And this deck, one thing I really like about this deck is like I have so many like nice fancy cards for this deck that's always sweet and really fun to play. So let's just talk about it, right? So the big headliner card of this deck is Galmew, right? This is the card that we really care about, that we always want to get. Galmew is really important to this deck. She's a 5-drop 5/5 that evos for 2, and then during your turn, if she takes ability damage, she can evo for 0, right? So that's all she does on her regular side. On her evo side, she's a 6/6, and then on evolve, you select an Omen card that costs 2 play points or less in your cemetery, and then you just play it for 0 play points. There's a lot of really good ones to choose from. During our turn, whenever this follower takes ability damage, select an enemy leader or enemy follower on the field and deal it 3 damage. It's so good. Great to, board control, great to kill our opponent. Just absolutely nuts. And, we have a lot of new synergy and stuff for this. So that is Galmew. The deck is basically revolves around dealing ability damage to our own followers. So we have Disciple of Disdain, absolutely fantastic card. 1-drop 1/2. For 0, you can select a follower on your field and deal it 1 damage. You can only do this once per turn. That might not seem like much. This card is really strong. It turns on the effects of all of our other cards in this deck. This is a huge enabler. It's really powerful. Next up we have a new card, Zealot of Disdain. 2-drop 2/2, Fanfare, deal 1 damage to each follower on the field. So ours and our opponents. During our turn, whenever this follower takes ability damage, deal 1 damage to each enemy leader. So she will also deal 1 damage to herself for her own effect, and then she'll also hit the opponent for 1. Yeah, pretty solid. Turns on all of our stuff, pings her opponent for 1. Yeah, pretty good. We have Servant of Disdain, another really obviously all these cards are super synergistic. It's a 2-drop 2/3. If Overflow is active for us, select an enemy follower, select another follower on the field and deal 1 damage to it and this follower. Then during our turn, whenever this follower takes ability damage, draw a card. So this, once again, turns on the effects of stuff like Lashena or the Zealot of Disdain, or just whatever, right? And keep in mind, when we evo with, not Lashena, Galmew, I literally just finished talking about the Rune deck. With Galmew, she basically buys us back any 2 play point or less Omen card, right? So like on evo, getting any of these cards back is just super strong. So yeah, the Servant of Disdain, very good. Next up, we have the Apostle of Disdain, this is just the Disdain package, right? So it's just a 3-drop 2/4, evos for 1. During her turn, whenever she takes ability damage, she gets +1 attack and storm. And then when she evolves, she's a 3/5. On evolve, discard a card, look at the top 5 of your deck. From among them, you can take 2 Omen cards, put them in your hand, and then put the remaining on the bottom of your deck in any order. So it's basically like a draw 2, more or less. And then same kind of thing, whenever she takes ability damage, she gets +1 in storm. So running 2 in the Evo deck. Really good. For the regular, running 3. All right, so here's another new card, really good. 3-drop 3/3, Dragon Soul Princess. Fanfare, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and you can pick a Wormkin follower from among them, put it in your EX area. If Overflow is active for you, it costs 3 less to play this turn. You put the rest on the bottom of your deck. Hey, it's a good Wormkin follower. So we have the Apostle of Disdain, their Wormkin. Servant of Disdain's a Wormkin. Zealot of Disdain's you can kind of see where I'm going with it. All of the Omen cards are Wormkin, including Galmew. So, yep, goes and gets you your Galmew, or whatever else you might need. So this card's really good for this deck. Only being a 3-drop is fantastic. All right, now we have some of our other stuff. So we have Phylene, so we're running a full 3 of Phylene. This card is just super good value. She's just a 1-drop that she's so good. So 1-drop, Fanfare, select any fall on the field and you engage it. So you turn it sideways so you can attack into it. It doesn't refresh during its controller's next start phase. So you basically lock it down for a turn, or you can lock it down and attack it. If Overflow is active for you on Fanfare, you search your deck for a White Frost Whisper, put it in your EX area, then shuffle your deck. And so we're running a single White Frost Whisper. And so the White Frost Whisper says, costs 1 less to play if Overflow is active for you. And then select an engaged enemy follower on the field, like the one that you engaged with Phylene. If there's a Phylene on your field, deal it 2 damage, and destroy it. Then if there's a Phylene, you deal 2 damage to the leader as well. So yeah, she's just really good at killing stuff. I think some versions of this deck might want to run more White Frost Whispers, but I don't mind the one of here. And then Phylene is she's just so good. Next up we have Draconeer, Knuckle Dragon, 3-3/3. This is another staple. Fanfare, you summon a Draconic Weapon token, and you can evo him for 1. Draconic Weapon token, these things. They're just a little 1-drop token that you can use this effect and put into the cemetery, and you select a dragon follower on your field, and you give it +1 defense and the armed trait. And that's important for Draconeer's evolved ability. He becomes a 4/4, and on evolve, you select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 2 damage. But if there's another armed fall on your field, you deal 4 damage. So yeah, you want to evo your Draconeer. You want to play a Draconeer, and then you activate your weapon, and then you make something else an armed follower, and then you evo him, so you can deal that extra bit of damage. It's really good. Running 2 Draconeer in the evo deck, and 2 in the main. Next up, another staple, we have Dark Dragoon Forte. 4-drop, 5/1, Storm, evo for 2. I don't really need to go over this too much. She's just really good. And then when you evo her, she becomes a 7/3 with Storm and Aura. Just kill him. Just kill him dead with your Forte. We also have Miss Tartman. So we talked about Tartman earlier. We're talking about Tartman here. My ultimate rare Miss Tartman. So she's a 4-drop, 4/4. Fanfare, you search your deck for any card put in your hand. This Tartman is actually really good in decks where you need a specific card. And this deck, you really need to get your Galmew. Galmew really makes the deck hum. It really, ties everything together. So Galmew is one of the things you're going to choose to get with Tartman a lot of the time, or you can just get like a Forte and kill him or something. But yeah, I think I like the one of Tartman in this deck. And it also makes the deck even more spicy now that I have like a Tartman and a Phylene and the Forte. I don't have a fancy Galmew though, unfortunately. We have our one of Azidahaka and our one of Evo Azidahaka. So what does Azidahaka do? 6-drop, 5/6, Evos for 2. And then on Fanfare, you turn 3 face down Evolve followers in Evo deck face up, select an enemy fall on the field, and destroy it. And then when you Evo Azidahaka, it becomes a 7/8 with Storm. And on Strike, if there's at least 5 face-up Evo cards in your Evo deck, give your leader +3 health. If there's at least 8, deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. So if you have 8 face-up cards in Evo deck, you hit your opponent for 10, which is pretty good. So it's a good way to close out the game, kind of like your 4th Forte a little bit. But you got to jump through a little bit more hoops. But yeah, Azidahaka does Azidahaka things. And the rest of the deck is, well, we have a new card and then some classics. So we have Dragon Oracle. We're just running 2 of this in the deck. It's a pretty high rolly card, really good on turn 2, and then after that it kind of peters out quite a bit. This is a card that I've seen some people not run at all, and some people run 3 of. It's just kind of like up to you. And I saw one tournament winning Japanese list that ran 2, and I was like, I'm gonna try the 2. So far it's been decent enough, but this is one of those cards that I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I just want to add another White Frost Whisper, like cut these both, add another Draconeer and another White Frost Whisper or something. I don't know. I'm pretty torn on it. Let me know what you would do. And then we have our new card, Sneer of Disdain. So it's a 1-drop spell. If you have a Galmew on your field, or when a Galmew is, let's go back. When a Galmew is put onto your field, banish this card from your cemetery. select a file on your field, and deal it 1 damage. You can also just play it, select a file on your field, and deal it 1 damage. So that sounds really bad, but it's really, really good for activating Galmu herself, for activating stuff like your Servant of Disdain, so you can draw more cards, or your Apostle of Disdain. It's just really, really good for this deck. And also, you select any file on the field, so you can, pick off your opponent's stuff too. This will be in your bin for later, so you can save it for when you get your Galmu. Really, really solid. And then we have our other 2 Galmu themed cards. So we have Disdainful Rending, pretty solid card. Select a follow on the field, or select one of your followers and one of your opponent's followers. You deal 1 to your follower and 3 to theirs. Yeah, really good. Turns on all of your self-damage effects and then also kills their thing, or, gets it close. And then we have Total Domination. This card is wild. It's a 2-drop card. You select a follower on your field, you deal 2 damage to it, and then every other enemy follower. So 2 damage to your dude, and then 2 to all your opponent's stuff. And then if you have a Galmu, deal 2 more to all your opponent's stuff. So this is one of the key cards that you get back when you evo your Galmu, and you get your 2-drop Omen card that you can play for free. It's nuts, right? It's nuts. So you play this for your play points. You deal 2 damage to Galmu. She has her own effect that deals 3 damage, and then it'll deal 4 to your opponent's board. Really good. It's really, really good. One of the kind of cards that really brings the deck together. And yeah, that's our updated Omen of Disdain. Man, I love how this set really makes all of these older archetypes viable, and it's just so much fun. Yeah, I dig it. Go dragging them out. And now we arrive at Haven. This deck is really sweet. I keep saying it, man. I keep saying it. So this Haven deck is Ward Haven. So we have our leader here, Lorena Gentle Piety. This is another deck where I just had to, trick it out with all the ultimates. So let's showcase the sleeves. We have these absolutely beautiful main deck sleeves. And then for the Evo deck, my favorite, Dark Jean. I mean, big fan. And some other really nice looking sleeves. All right, so this deck is Ward Haven. And it's just super fun. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's separate the tokens, because this deck actually has some sweet tokens that we're going to be using. Essentially, we just have a bunch of ward stuff, and we just ward our opponent out through a combination of protecting our life and then smashing them in the face. We have the new Holy Lord Ektar, which really helps with this, as well as some stuff like Angel of the Iron Steed. This card is so good. Yeah, and then we have the Temple Windbear as well. So yeah, this is Ward Haven. Let's talk about it real quick. This deck is sweet. Let's start off by talking about Aether of the White Wing. Crazy good card. This is a card that you could bump up to 3 of in the deck. 7-drop 3/5 with Ward. Fanfare search your deck for any Haven follower with a different name than this card that costs less than your maximum play points, and you put it on the field. So if you play her on 7, you can go get a 6-drop Haven follower, and you put it immediately onto the field. It's so good. You can do some nuts stuff. One of the things you can do is wait till you have 8 play points, and you play her, and then you can go get Holy Lord Ektar, who then will put 2 more dudes onto the field. So this is 4 dudes for just Aether. So you play Aether, and you go get your Ektar. Well, what does Ektar do? So Ektar is a 7-drop, 5/6, also with Ward, and it says Fanfare, select up to 2 Haven followers that cost 2 or less in your cemetery, and summon them. Now we have a whole bunch of 2-drops here that we really care about. So we have a lot to choose from, and then you just summon them. And then while this card is on your field, every Haven follower on your field also has Rush, so they all have Rush. And then also you can activate them and banish 3 Haven followers from your cemetery and give each other Haven follower on your field +1/+1. You can only do that once per turn. So okay, let me sell you on this a little bit. So on turn 8, right? You play your Aether. You go search your deck for Ektar. Ektar comes into play. Ektar's Fanfare then triggers. You go get your Amethyst Lion and your Meowskers, and they both come into play. And then you activate Ektar, and then everything gets plus everything gets +1/+1, and it all has Rush. But stuff like this has Storm, so this will also have Storm. And then Meowskers, hey, guess what? Also has Storm. So yes, you can just jam out and do crazy stuff out of nowhere. This deck is super sweet. Ektar is really good, and Aether is also very good. Yeah, this deck is, I keep saying it, these decks are really fun to play. So we're on 2 of each of those. Now we have Wilbert, another good card you can go search for with your Aether. So Wilbert is a 4/5 for 5 with Ward, and then on Fanfare you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and from among them you may summon a follower with Ward not named Wilbert that costs 5 or less. So you can't go get these two, unfortunately. But you can go get any other card in the deck if you see it. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, whenever a follower with Ward is put from your field into the cemetery, deal 1 damage to each enemy leader. So it makes your opponent, it forces them to like kill themselves by killing your Ward followers. Like it's so nuts, and everything we've already seen so far has Ward. Wilbert also has Ward. We're running 3 of them in the deck. Now, what are some other cards we can go get with any of these things or Wilbert? Well, here we have the Holy Lancer, 5-drop 3/4. Evos for 1 has Ward, and Fanfare if there's another Ward follower on your field, I don't know, like any of the ones we've seen so far, select an enemy follower and deal it 3 damage. And then, when you Evo it, she becomes a 4/5, still with Ward, and on Evo, select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 4 damage. So you can grab your Holy Lancer from your from your Wilbert, and then Fanfare will deal 3 damage, Evo deal 4 damage. It's pretty good, right? What else do we got? Well, we have Kaede Takagaki. She's also really good. She's a 5-drop 3/5, also with Ward. Fanfare, select any enemy fall on the field and banish it. At the start of your end phase, if your leader's health or defense is 5 or less, you heal 5 and draw a card. Basically, she's just a 3/5 with Ward that just banishes something on enter, which is insane, that you can go get from Wilbert, or you can get from Aether. Really solid. So we're running 3 of her. She's kind of becoming a staple at this point. We have, speaking of staples, we have Jeanne d'Arc, not a Ward follower, one of the few ones. 4-drop 3/4, Fanfare, 2 damage to all your enemy stuff, and then you can Evo her, and then when you Evo her, you guessed it, 2 damage to all your enemy stuff. And you also give 2 health to all of your dudes too. So do 2 damage to each enemy follower on the field, and then give each follower on your field plus 2 health. Yeah. Really good. So running 2 of her in the Evo deck. And then 3 of her in the main. This is one of those cards that I was looking around, and for some reason the Evo versions were like $30 or $40, and I'm like, yep, I'm buying them. This card's good. Speaking of good cards, by the way, here we have Angel of the Iron Steed. This card is just a bronze, and it is cracked. It's a 4-drop 3/4 with Ward. Fanfare, summon a Mystic Artifact token. Now, that doesn't seem so good until you read what a Mystic Artifact token is. A Mystic Artifact token is a 2/3 with Ward that has Fanfare draw a card. So what this is for 4 play points, you get 3/7 worth of stats across 2 Ward bodies, and you draw a card because the Fanfare happens on the Mystic Artifact. So for 4 play points, you get both of these and you draw a card. This card is so good. It is so good. Yep. Very good. And it's synergized with all the other Ward stuff we got going on too, of course. Speaking of, we have Ruby Falcon. 3-drop 3/3 with Ward. Evos for 1. You can pay 2. Give it Storm as well. And whenever another follower you control with Storm or Ward attacks, deal 1 damage to each enemy leader. So she just makes it, or the bird makes it so all of your other Ward stuff also just deals additional damage. And as you can see, everything in the deck except for Jeanne d'Arc was a Ward follower. So yes, very good. When the Falcon evolves, by the way, it becomes a 4/4, and it deals something 2 damage on Evo. So on Evolve, deal another follower 2 damage. It's a 4/4, it still has Ward, can still get Storm, and still has the other effect. It's very good. It's very good. We're also running Lyrial Archer Throne, so not a Ward follower, but it does protect us. This card's really solid. So it's a 3-drop 2/5, And then at quick speed, you can activate her ability and deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. And then while she's on your field, your leader doesn't take ability damage from anything. She is really solid. So she protects us, and she's just really hard to kill. She's a 2/5, and she just pokes our opponent every single turn. You can activate this at the end of your opponent's turn. So you just kind of keep her on your field, and then when you're at the end of your opponent's turn, you have a window to activate quick speed stuff. So you go 2 damage. Yeah, really good. You don't want to do this on your turn, because then they can attack into her. All right, now we have the rest of our 2-drops. Actually, let's just show our spell here real quick. This is a Holy Counterattack. I've considered running Angelic Snipe over this, but I think the Holy Counterattack just sweet for the deck, and it synergizes, and it's in flavor. It's a 1-drop quick speed spell, but it can only be played on your opponent's turn. Can't be played on your turn. You select an engaged enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. If there's a follower with ward on your field, deal it 4 instead. So it's a 1-drop that does 4 damage, essentially, for us. Why you would want to run like Snipe over this is Snipe's a lot more versatile, right? You can use Snipe on your turn, you can use Snipe on unengaged followers, but 1 for 4 is just really solid. That's why we're running it in the deck. All right, now for the 2-drops. I already showed off a couple. We had Meowskers and we had the Amethyst Lion. Let's show the new dude. So this is Temple Windbear. So Temple Windbear is just a 2-drop 1/2. Seems pretty bad. Evos for 2. Okay, well, what does the bear do when you evolve him? Good stuff. It turns out good stuff. So he becomes a 2/3. And on evolve, you summon a Holy Tiger token. If there are at least 2 amulets on your field, you draw a card. So we don't have a lot of amulets in the deck, as you may have noticed. There are none. But he just gives you a tiger as I throw that card to the ground. He just gives you a tiger. So essentially, what you get here is for 4 play points, you get a 2/3 and a 4/4 with rush, and they both have rush, which is just really, really good and efficient. So for 4 play points, you get a 4/4. So basically, another 6-7 worth of stats for 4 play points. It's really good. It's really good. You don't get to draw a card like the other one does, but still pretty good. And the 4/4 rush for the tiger is quite good. So, yep, we had 3 bears in the main, and we got 2 bears in the Evo. Let's show this one next. This is the Demon's Epitaph. Another staple Haven card. 2-drop, 2/3. You can Evo it by discarding a card. That's all. You Evo it, discard a card. It's a 2/3. Well, when you Evo it, it is a 3/4 with Bane, which is the most important part. And then on last words, you deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. So essentially for 2, and you discard a card, you can just kill anything your opponent has that's attackable. Yeah, really solid. So we have 2 of them in the Evo deck to kind of round out the Evo cards. And the final 2 cards are the ones I showed off already. We have Meowskers, which is a 2-drop 1/3 with Storm, and on strike you select an enemy leader or follower and deal it 1 damage. Meowskers is actually pretty solid. And then we have Amethyst Lion, which is another Storm, 2/1 with Storm, and then Fanfare, select another follower with Storm or Ward on the field and give it +1 attack. Now these both synergize very well, obviously with Ektar, but they also synergize really, really well with the Ruby Falcon, because Ruby Falcon does the little ping effect on Storm or Ward attacks. And so both of these have Storm, so they get that effect. So if you have a Ruby Falcon out, plus these, you can deal like quite a bit of like burst damage. So it might be a defensive deck, you might be shielding up a lot, but the Ward Haven can deal like a lot of burst damage just out of nowhere. And there's so many cards in the deck that are super efficient. Like I said, we have the bear giving us like, what did I say? Like, was it 6-7 worth of stats? What's the Evo bear? Yeah, 6-7 worth of stats, right? Because you get the tiger and the bear. 6-7 worth of stats for 4. It's just really good. So yeah, this deck is really efficient, really annoying against certain decks, right? And just such good stuff. So yeah, this deck's a lot of fun. As all the decks of this format, super fun. And when you get to your late game, you can just like spew the board with a bunch of dudes. So Ektar is really good. And then of course we have our staple, Aether of the White Wing. Cool deck. All right, and to cap off the video, we have 3 returning decks from the Verdant Steel meta, And these decks essentially haven't changed at all. So we're going to go over these very quickly. I'm not going to talk about them in detail. I will have a link in the description down below to the previous deck tech video, so you can just see what I said in that video, because these decks literally haven't changed at all. So the first one is one of the best decks of the previous format, still really good. This is Natura Sword. This is the deck with your Viridian Magnas. We still have our Octrus in here. But yeah, this is all about Natura Sword. It's a really good deck. Does a lot of damage with Mistalina and is pretty resilient. I like this deck a lot still. And obviously I still, I kept it together. So we have Natura Sword. So if you didn't want to play the Thief Sword, I think that's a really good option. We also have, I'm running out of shiny leaders. I have so many decks. This one is Machina Abyss. Once again, just really, really powerful deck. Really explosive, can do a ton of damage out of nowhere. And this is the deck I have my three Techno Lords in. And, one of my favorite characters and cards of all time, Mono. So this deck is a ton of fun, still bursty, can still do a lot of work in the Japanese meta for Alterchaotica. This deck still won a lot of events. Very, very strong, do not underestimate. And then finally, this is just my pet deck, my favorite deck. It's Control Haven. This one I actually updated a little bit. So I added one new card into my Control Haven list. So this is my favorite deck in the game, and it's just kind of like my pet deck, right? So this is the one that has my 3 Rulenized, by the way, my other 3 Rulenized. What I did for this deck is I swapped out like a couple cards. This is still our Death's Breath kind of Reanimator style strategy. I think it's still pretty good in this current meta. But the new card that I added is Sylvia. I think this card's super integrated, and I think she's super good. She's a 7-drop 6/6. On Fanfare, you select an enemy fall in the field, you blow it up and deal 5 damage to the leader. Or you can pay 2 and discard her and select an enemy follower that costs 5 or more and destroy it. I think she's super, super good because you can use her as a removal spell, essentially. And then later in the game, you can resurrect her with Death's Breath, and she now has Ward and also deals 5 damage to your opponent's face. Really good. I don't think she's quite as good as Yuzuki, because Yuzuki can kill 2 things. But I think she's still really good. So I run 2 of her in the deck. And this is kind of our top end here. We still run the 3 of Israfil. We have the Sylvia, and then we have Yuzuki. Though I suppose we still have a little bit of a other top end with, we have kind of a high top end. Can't forget about my girl Ginsetsu, just great. And then of course Kawi. We still run 2 Kawi. So yeah, that's my my Control Abyss deck. It's the same as last time. I just cut a couple cards and added in Sylvia because I think she's really, really good. Yeah, this deck's super fun. It's my favorite to play. I love this deck. But I really like all these decks. I really like all these decks. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you made it this far into the video. Thank you so much. It's kind of another doozy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, especially if you watched this far. And stay tuned for more Shadowverse Evolved content here on Red Zone Road. See you later, everyone.